Everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonzo, Meredith. Bibbs is still recovering from knee surgery, so we send him our best wishes, and we know you do too. Season 9, Episode 8, The Zygon Inversion, and Episode 9, Sleep No More. So yeah, the end of a two-parter, and then the one shot we've had all season.
Because why not?
Yeah, let's get the one shot out of the way first. It was okay.
It was an episode. They were trapped in a space station.
I feel like we've seen we're like stuck in a locked room while monsters rampage down the hallways. Like that was like 4 episodes ago. We just did that.
Except so I saw this one coming. I ended up, totally calling who the bad guy was early on. I thought it was interesting in the fact that it was a horror episode that they should have done closer to Halloween. That would have been great. I really liked the device. And I liked the bad guys. I really thought they were more of like a nod to classic horror monsters. That was nice. But overall, like the whole episode just felt kind of clunky. And my main complaint was the POV. Just when you're gonna do kind of that strange point, like, POV, it just was too mismatched and too all over the place.
It felt like they forgot about it for chunks of it, and then when they would do it, it was just kind of awkward.
It was very disjointed, and I just didn't really like it. And I almost thought it was going to be at first one of those episodes where we didn't have the doctor in it at all. And I'm like, oh, cool, it's going to be one of those weird episodes where it's just random other people. And I'm like, I could be okay with this. And then it wasn't.
Oh, that's the thing that happens? There are doctorless episodes?
Every once in a while. And I'm like, they're fun. They're fun. Okay. But this one, I'll be honest, there are a lot of times I'm like watching it and I'm like, so I'm gonna check on my virtual cats and see how they're doing. And my boyfriend who never had, he's kind of like you, where he hasn't watched a lot of Doctor Who, and he's watching it with me, really for the first time since the Tenet stuff. And he's like, do you have to watch this? I'm like, yeah, it's my job. But I'm like, look, we can watch it so we can dissect it later.
I appreciate you making the sacrifice. I did like the Oliver shout out.
Yeah.
That made me laugh, especially in an episode where they kept repeating Mr. Sandman, because I had a friend of mine in college and that was sort of this weird running gag where we would just start singing that at random moments. I don't know why, but anyway, there you go.
Well, I will say this. So I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4, which is the new video game from Bethesda Studios, and every time these crewmen would run down a hallway, there'd be all these like boxes and crates, and I'm like, just loot them! Oh my God. Also, they're really, really bad at firing, and I'm like, come on, I'm better, and I'm crappy at first-person shooters, and I'm like, you guys can be better at shooting these things. So I was actually just having flashbacks to playing my video game.
And I thought there would be more of a payoff for the drones. What were they called? The sort of weird genetically created, like, expendable guys with the stuff on their faces.
Number 474 or whatever. I forget what their names, because honestly, like I said, I was only paying half attention, but I forget their names. The grunts. The
grunts. Yeah. I thought that was going to deliver more after all that setup.
And especially since Clara had such an objectification. She objected to them so much, and especially the whole sleep machines, the Morpheus machines. I really thought they were going to go deeper into that. So I felt there was a lot of setup, there was a lot of potential, and especially compared to last week's episode, this one was a huge letdown for me.
Yeah, this kind of felt like they were vamping after what was obviously, I think, a really elaborate two-parter and had a lot going on. So let's go back to the Zygons. I thought that was a really satisfying wrap-up. I was really impressed by that episode just as a whole. I think sort of immediately went to my admittedly short list of favorite episodes of the 2 seasons or season and a half that I've been watching.
I will definitely say of all my Doctor Who watching, this is definitely it was in the top 5. It was a strong episode. It had all the right beats. It had a great writing, great characterization. It had a lot of heart, and even all the way to the end, what they did with that, I was like, this is great. This is perfect. This is everything I love about Doctor Who. There was just so much that happened, but in all the right ways. And I really loved it. And I felt everything was explained in a way that made sense.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also, I always admire when something is clearly out to comment about our time, and it does it in such a way that both sides can come away with it feeling like, oh, well, they agree with me.
Yeah.
Like there was this great Romanian film a few years back called 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days that was about to about a woman and her friend who were trying to get an abortion in Romania during the Ceausescu years when it was completely illegal, and how it was this whole underground thing. And it was immediately embraced by the sort of the pro-choice crowd. But then the opposing side also found in it things to call their own in terms of, because the abortion itself is presented as this rather harrowing experience, they could kind of point to go, aha, see, terrible stuff. I have been reading online people who have been looking at this two-parter as a metaphor about refugees in the UK or about Muslim assimilation in Western Europe and that kind of thing. And I've been seeing interpretations of both angles of that. So I find that really interesting. And I think even if you divorce it from that stuff, you can just kind of look at it as kind of a fable about coexistence and about mutually assured destruction, going back, it's the end of war games,
it's not a new story, but it's definitely a poignant story given what's been going on the last couple of years. Because, we know, especially given what's happened this week, there's a lot of talk about, refugees and what's happening in the Middle East. But even going to the summer and in the last couple of years, there's been an influx of refugees coming from the Middle East. But prior to that, that has been Europe at its core. And I think more so than Americans, I know we talk about it a lot because of just politics, but Europe really does understand the refugee crisis because they kind of get it first. But this topic is so on point, and I think this episode, while it speaks to a wider audience, I think, like you said, though, it can kind of just go any way, and I think it was a smart episode for doing that, and I think it allowed for a lot of dialogue to be had, and I think it was very sensible.
Yeah, and I think what good sci-fi always does, what you say, is that it uses these sort of weird scenarios to make us look more closely at our own our own time period.
And I think that's exactly why I loved the Zygon Invasion and Inversion, is because it reminded me why I love sci-fi so much and why I love Doctor Who so much.
Well, there you go. All right, so hopefully this last one was a bit of a toss-off, and we'll get back to the good stuff next week. And with any luck, Bibbs will be back with us too.
And more Maisie.